The reason you feel behind isn't because you're doing it wrong, but because you're trying to chase balance in a life that was never meant to be perfectly balanced. In today's episode, I'm joined by Suzy Hillegas. She's a mentor, a writer, and founder of Suzy Connect. She helps people move from hustle to harmony in their time, work, and life. And let me tell you, this conversation felt like a deep breath for the busy woman entrepreneur. We talk about why a perfectly balanced day might not even exist, how to stop letting everything feel equally urgent, and how to name what matters most when you're juggling business, family, relationships, responsibilities, and the invisible mental load that we all carry. Suzy shares a simple but powerful way to think differently about time, overwhelm, small wins, and even those moments when your heart is racing and you can't even explain why. If you've been feeling stretched, reactive, or like you're constantly chasing the next thing without really enjoying where you are, this episode is going to give you a whole new perspective. I invite you to listen in. Welcome to Main Street Success Stories. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch, entrepreneur, business coach, and founder of Next Wave Business Coaching. My first business I opened 2 days before giving birth to my second daughter. But then I grew it for 20 years. I grew it from a local bakery into a national brand and eventually sold it for a profit. I know firsthand how tough the odds can be. Only 1 out of 2 small businesses make it to year 5. That's why I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs change those statistics through coaching, mentoring, and this podcast, where I share real stories of others, their success, their struggle, their mindset shifts, their fears, and lots of wins along the way. Because none of us are alone in this journey of entrepreneurship, and I want to make sure that you have the support you need. My goal is simple: to inspire you, motivate you, and show you there's a path to building a profitable business. So let's dive into the next episode of Main Street Success Stories. Welcome, Suzy, to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So you help people move from hustle to harmony. And I know as any entrepreneur listening, we're all thinking, okay, how do we do that? Because we are just juggling 100 things, especially a lot of the people that I work with are women entrepreneurs. They have busy lives, they have busy families or elderly parents. We're stuck doing all the things that we love, but I love how you say hustle to harmony. So let me just ask you, what does a perfectly balanced day actually look like for you right now?
Yes, a perfectly balanced day never happens in my life right now. I start my day by naming what matters. And what I mean by that is if I could only do one thing or be in a certain mindset for the day, what is it? And that is sort of what navigates my day based on what happens or the different layers that come, juggling all of the pieces. And I actually have a friend that I Marco Polo with every morning. And that's how we start our day is she names what matters for her and I name what matters for me. And it started during COVID and we've just continued.
Oh, that's fun. I need a Marco Polo friend. How fun is that?
It is.
Okay, well,
It's
first
great.
of all, I just love right out of the gates, let's just squash all these unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves.
Yes.
I see it not only in business because we're surrounded by everybody's highlight reels. So we always think they're more profitable or they're busier, they have more clients, they're doing it better than we are.
Yes.
And then we might be in mom mode for those of us that are moms and we're feeling the same pressure.
Yes.
There's this comparison trap that happens out there about how you parent, how they parent. Or, it could even, spill over into our marriages, our relationships, all those things. So I just love how, first of all, it never happens. Okay, so great. Let's just all take a deep breath. There's no such thing as a perfectly balanced day.
Yes.
But I really want to dive into focusing on what matters because as women entrepreneurs who might be building a family or taking care of elderly parents or just running their households,
Yeah.
all of those things matter.
Yes.
Our businesses matter, our clients matter, our families matter. So how do we really kind of peel back those layers of that onion there
Yes.
and schedule our days and our time and our focus on what matters?
Right. And that's a really good point. And so once once I help once I figure out what matters for myself or help one of my clients name what matters for themselves, we then talk about the layers of their life. You just mentioned many, many of them. And because it is different from person to person, depending on what type of business they're running, what their home life is like, what their community commitments are. And so I just went back to the super basic definition of a noun is a person, place, or thing. And so, what I try to do if I'm having a day where I feel like four things matter today, that's just the reality of my life today, is I then try to put them in a category of, is it a person? Like, is it my son who needs to study for a test for middle school? Is it a place? Do I have two jobs outside of my own business. And so do I need to be at one of those jobs today? Or is it a thing? A thing is more like an emotion, or like taxes. We're in the midst of tax season right.
Yeah, that's fun, but it matters.
It matters, right? And so I try to categorize them because sometimes, if all of them are people-y things, then you can either start making some phone calls or scheduling, like, okay, how am I gonna, I can talk with my elderly parents later in the morning because they're sleeping in. Well, my middle schooler's already up. Okay, how can I engage with him to sort of not cross it off the list, but, feel like you've invested the time in that. But what I've found is that people, when they stop to name all of those things, they realize why they're feeling stuck or why they can't move because, it's 15, it's five in each category. It's five people, it's five things, it's five places. Or the opposite happens and they realize, oh, it's one big thing in each category. And then they're able to kind of get perspective and go, oh, you know what? My taxes do matter, but maybe not today. Maybe I schedule time later in the week to work on those. But my parent who needs to go to the doctor today needs. So even though initially it felt like all four things mattered the most, they're able to see the variance and see, for today, this thing actually really matters the very most.
I really appreciate this perspective because you're taking very important things, but you're breaking them up into these buckets. And immediately, I just felt some relief hearing this because for me, the thing a lot of times is all the household responsibilities. And I think
Mhm.
it's because I work out of my home, so I look at them all the time. And I just am like, oh, I want to get that done. And oh, the laundry's piling up. But really, does that really matter? I'm
Yes.
not running out of clean underwear and socks. I have drawers full. And so I love this perspective of really thinking about what matters the most in this moment or today. And each of us, like you said, it's so fluid because schedules dictate a lot of what we do. So you talk a lot about meaningful moments of momentum and you have a blog on Substack and that's how I found you was found your blog on LinkedIn. Absolutely enjoy it. And I feel like for high achieving entrepreneurs, we tend to overlook wins.
Yes.
We're always looking for the massive win. "Oh, my business hit six figures. My business hit 1 million. My profit was this much. I
Mhm.
gained 20 new clients." And we really fail to see how far we've come. We're always kind of second guessing ourselves and we're
Yes.
always achieving and striving for the next thing. So, how do
Mhm.
we start to kind of recognize that pattern in ourselves and
Mhm.
maybe change that narrative of what we're saying about our momentum and our wins?
Yes. So small wins is the place to begin. And it can be as simple. I was having lunch with one of my mentees a while back, and he was sort of listing off all the things that were going wrong in his life. And I said, can we just stop for a minute? We were in a professional place. I said, can we just stop? You have a healthy lunch in front of you that he had made and brought from home. I said, you're dressed. Your child made it to daycare. Like, we just listed out like five things that I was like, those are all worthy of note because it's showing that you are getting forward momentum in your life, even though yes, there are still these big things over here. But let's just stop for a minute and recognize that you got out of bed and you did all of these things to get to this moment right here. And I think it's so hard to do it for ourselves. It's easy when someone kind of we bump into and they're like, let's stop and recognize this. But that is what meaningful moments are, is stopping yourself and looking. I almost pretend like I'm with my best friend and what she would say about my life. And for years now, I've been trying to cultivate that art of seeing my life the way that other people see it. And it quiets the critic and it quiets the productive hamster wheel, because yes, it is important to get things done, but it is also important to celebrate the wins and to just stop and take a breath and go, oh, I just did 4 loads of laundry or whatever the thing is. And I think that's important too, is there are things that we do in our daily life that offer us health, that offer us success, that we're just so used to doing them that we discount them. It's like, well, of course I wipe down all of my kitchen counters. Well, but did you stop and just be glad that, wow, this was a pretty good morning? And look, that's like the last task of my morning list and it got done. Let's revel in those clean kitchen counters for a minute, you know?
It's so true. And I think you're right because we're on autopilot a lot. So when you're recognizing these meaningful moments, is this a little different than gratitude or is this similar to gratitude? Help me understand a little bit of the
Yeah.
differences there.
I think it's really similar. For me, for a long time, gratitude felt like another thing I had to do. And
Yeah. Before you
somehow
go to bed, write your
right,
lists. And yeah, one more thing to do.
yes. And so for me, changing it into a meaningful moment has just allowed me to think about it different. It is the same. They are the same idea. But it's also purposing to stop and look. Where I think sometimes the trap with gratitude is, well, when I get through this, I'll stop and give thanks. And that's great too. But I think it's actually more valuable to stop in the moment. And like when things are feeling really high or really intense or a lot, that is a really important moment to stop and take a breath and acknowledge all the things that have gone right to get you to that moment.
So, really, what I'm hearing is it sounds like it's this idea of being more present,
Yes.
being more present in each moment of every day so that we're stopping to look at how far we've come. Because honestly, you and I are recording mid morning on a Tuesday. And if I was present and thought about all the things that I've done today, it's actually kind of impressive. I worked out, I did my devotionals, I actually washed my hair, just like we tend to get
And so
so ahead of ourselves and we don't
and
stop in the
stop
moment. We're
in the
always thinking about what's next.
right. And
So I
that's
love that.
yeah. And that's just come from some very deep personal experiences that have taught me the importance of doing it this way.
And that's what I love about entrepreneurs is you take a personal experience or a passion or a problem that you see and you turn it into your gift of giving back. And that's what you've created with your business, which is so powerful.
Yes.
One other thing you said that I think is really important for us to kind of talk about a little bit more is that inner critic. We live in a world where that's just common, that's natural, especially as entrepreneurs, because you're out here building something on your own. You don't have a feedback loop from trusted advisors. You don't have a boss that's giving you goals and high fiving you when you get there, or giving you a bonus. We are doing it ourselves, and it's very easy to get caught up in the doubt and also the negative talk and that narrative of this isn't working, I better pivot. And so it's interesting how you said, you don't think when I meet other business owners, I don't sit there and criticize what they're doing.
Right.
I think about, wow, how brave and how cool. And look how you're helping people. And, I might suggest improvements with my clients, but I'm not ever criticizing. And so I think that's really important for us to remember for ourselves. And so I appreciate that you brought that up.
Yes. Well, and then I highly recommend that everybody have an entrepreneur buddy to just in those moments when you realize your inner critic is talking too loud, you call them or you Marco Polo them or you whatever them, right? And you text them and say, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling about this." Allow them to speak truth into you. Allow them to say, "Oh, sometimes it's I'm right there too," or it's, "Oh, have you looked at this?" Or I don't know. It just helps to if you can get outside of your head. I think
Absolutely.
makes
You're
that
speaking my language, girl. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I've created the Focused Growth Collective. It is a space where entrepreneurs can come together with trusted
yes,
advisors and no judgment and quick feedback so that you
right.
don't spiral there too long and save and waste too much time. So
Yes.
let's talk about time. I feel like time, I always say time is one of the entrepreneur's biggest assets, but it's also one that we can waste more than anything. And I know tend to be one who can get stressed about time, like, oh, I don't have enough time to get this done. And so, how do you help people balance or find find a
Mhm.
better relationship with time so that we're not chasing this hustle all the time?
Yes. So, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we already talked about. I think it's really important to identify what people's relationship with time is. Are they someone who, they look at the clock and they're always racing against the clock? Are they someone who's just not even aware that there is a clock? That, because it's a whole gamut, right? And so once you kind of figure out where you are in the time continuum, it helps to then figure out how to build that relationship. The things I always challenge people to do, not maybe for a whole day because that might feel overwhelming, but to one day I was feeling like I was sitting at my desk and I wasn't getting anything done. I got out a blank piece of paper and every task that I did, I wrote it down. So if I emailed a client, if I responded to someone on Facebook, if I created a reel, whatever it was, I just wrote it down. And because I had like an hour and a half, right, before my family came home and stuff. And it was so interesting at the end of that hour and a half time to see that I actually had done like 15 to 20 tasks, but they weren't all related. They weren't all this one specific thing. And I know I struggle. I always want this long runway to do a project or to do a thing. And if you can help people figure out how they think about it and then try something different, it's amazing how that can just move them just a little bit. And they're like, oh, I got this done, or oh, I don't feel the pressure. So it's tricky. Time is tricky because it depends on how they're thinking about it. But it is important because again, we can fall into that critic space again, right? Where we feel so guilty that we didn't get done whatever we got done. But also, like the other day, I was trying to solve a password issue and it took 30 minutes. That was just the reality of it. And was that wasted time? I could see it as wasted time, but it wasn't wasted time because I needed to get into the thing that did the thing, right? So I think it's rearranging, naming what matters about time and giving it a new definition.
So it's really about our beliefs and our relationship around time, which probably
Yes.
stems from
Both.
something in our childhood or the way, or even a job that we had at some point.
Yes.
Usually we find these type of patterns that we have stem from somewhere. So I find
Yes.
that really interesting. And I like how you said, what is your relationship with time? And I think some of us almost probably feel like we're running out of time, a little bit of a scarcity. And, my father, growing up, my father was a lot older. I was the youngest of four kids, and they
Mhm.
had me later
Mhm.
in life. And he was an engineer mindset. So everything was very black and white, very literal. And I
Yes.
remember him saying for years, I'm going to pass away at age 77 because the annual statistic or the average statistics of men die at age 77. Well, I think I grew up hearing that. And so to me, I always feel like I'm running out of time. Like, time, I don't have enough time. Well, ironically, he lived to 96. So, there needs to be a pivot or a thought process that needs to change a little bit about my relationship with time, but
Yes. But
that's
even recognizing that you know that now, and I'm sure there'll be moments even now that you'll catch yourself in that kind of clock maker's time of, and go, whoa, 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 wait a second. What? And again, going back to naming what matters, right? What matters for this afternoon or what matters for this project? It allows you to kind of get some space from the natural tendency that we might have with time.
absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about technology because I feel like we are so plugged into so many devices. And I know those are big interrupters in my day
Sure.
and big distractions. And they do kind of take us away from maybe what matters most or
Sure.
even our time. So, how do you kind of coach people through our tech?
So I read a book called Deep Work, and he talks about that exact issue. And one of the things that I have created and use with my clients is a deep work model. And basically, it's creating a block of time. Some people do it every day, some people do it once a week. It kind of, again, depends on your layers and what you're juggling. But it's anywhere from 3 to 4 hours that you turn everything off. You turn off your
Wow.
phone, you turn off your email, you create silence and you do the work, the hard project, the taxes, the whatever it may be because you're not going to get interrupted. But what's challenging with this is you realize how distractible you are. And I have found this to actually give me the most momentum in my life because it really shows me, like most people, when they first start doing it, they're like, I can't do this.
Well, when you said 3 to 4 hours, I was like, "Well, what if, my family sends me a fun Snapchat that I miss? Or, what if
Right.
my kids need me?" Or, it was kinda like, "Whoa, that is a
No,
chunk of time." But
it
now
is.
I'm kinda taking a deep breath, I'm processing it, and I'm thinking how brilliant this is.
But it's not something you can just decide to do. Most of us, because you
Okay.
do have to kind of set your family up well. And you do have to kind of set up your if you have been an entrepreneur who responds immediately to every single thing, you have to communicate that on Wednesdays or whatever day you choose. And that's I encourage people to pick the same time and the same day, because then people will just it's like a rock in a river. They'll just flow around it. And it's amazing how often people message you, but then when you get back to them, when you kind of come out of your bubble, they're like, "Oh yeah, I figured it out." Or
That is so true, and I can cite 100 examples of that, especially with adult children who all of a sudden
Mhm.
have this thing, and if you're busy and you don't respond right away, oh, what do you know? They figured out. Even teenage children, even younger children.
Yes, yes. And I think it's such a healthy practice because it's you are honoring yourself as a business person, and you're teaching your people to honor your space as a business person. And yeah, it makes a huge difference.
That is really powerful. And I'm going to put a link to that book in the show notes because I feel like entrepreneurs are very reactive. And
Yes.
a lot of that stems from a lot of different reasons. But one of them is fear that if we don't respond right away, we might miss out on the sale, or
Yes.
we might not support our team the way our team needs supporting, or we
Yes.
might miss out on this one big opportunity to, network somewhere or whatever it is. But in the reality, it can wait 3 to 4 hours.
Yes.
We've created that unrealistic expectation on ourselves, and, we call that the hierarchy of urgency, and a lot of our decisions become, "Oh, this is urgent. Everything's urgent."
Right.
And
Right.
so then we are making decisions that might not be as powerful or as smart or as what we really want them to be because
Yes.
we're reacting so quickly. So that
Yes.
is really, that's really profound and something that I need to definitely try and create that muscle of some deep work. I've been hearing a lot and seeing a lot on Instagram about bricking your phone.
Mm,
And I know
yes.
that's a little bit more towards social media.
Hmm.
And there's this trend, this wave of
Yes.
younger people are putting this, they call it a brick on your phone that blocks your social, and they're taking a break for a couple of
Yes.
days. And as entrepreneurs, I feel like we feel so glued to our socials because once again, if we're not on there, if we're not responding to everybody, we're going to miss out on that opportunity. But a couple
Yes.
hours isn't, if they really want to work with you, a couple hours is not going to deter them from not
Exactly.
working with you. So
And it might actually draw more of the crowd that you want to be working with.
exactly. No, that's great. I love that. Okay, so take us through if somebody comes to you. I know you've got your meaningful moments of momentum, which is a
Mhm.
beautifully written blog, but you also do some mentoring one on one. So give us kind of just a sneak peek behind the curtain. If somebody comes to you, kind of what are the steps that you take them through?
Mhm.
Just give us the shorter version of it. But I would
Yeah.
love to just kind of understand how, where we're at when we come to you and what are some of the results that you are helping people with.
Yeah. Well, so the overall purpose of Suzy Connect, or meaningful moments of momentum, is to help people move from hustle to harmony in their time, work, and lives that they're living right now. I feel like we all live in this world of, oh, if you just diet this way, this is the body you'll get. Where I am more about, where are you right now? And what is the joy or the goodness that's right there in front of you? Doing the things we've already talked about. We start with naming what matters. We start with, what in this season of your life, what are you going to look back and wish you had paid more attention to or given credence to, and didn't just let, priorities yank things around, but you decide. And depending on what they say, then we go into the layers of life and we really, really spend some time talking about, where are you living, and who are the people in your life, and what does your job life look like, and what does your activity life look like? So many people are struggling with loneliness in this current culture. And it's just so interesting when you break down person, place, and thing, that their things are, they go to work, they go to the grocery store, and they go home. And it's like, well, maybe we could, find some ways for you to interact with some other people. Or maybe there's some people at work that you've enjoyed spending time with. And so it's just helping people notice what is already in their life and what they can do to make it be the life that they want. I read a book right after my son was born. I read a book called Design Your Day, and it blew my mind because it was like, what? I get to decide how I want my day to look, which, there's some nuances to that, but it's sort of that idea of it's so easy for us to complain about our life not being what we want it to be and thinking, when my kid graduates from high school or when he graduates from college or when I get a different job or the list is endless. But you can actually make your life better right now today with all the pieces that are there. And it's just helping people understand how to do that. One of the main practices I teach people is how to point and call. And so you just point out like we had an incident yesterday. We had a learning from home day because we had snow. My husband was home from work and he was boiling something in the kitchen, which isn't normal for him. And the fan was going and I made waffles and I used the wrong batter. And so there was this moment where breakfast wasn't working. The kitchen was too full and my son needed help with school. And I just stopped everybody and I just named all of those things out loud. And they were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just naming all of the factors that are making my heart pound really hard right now.
Sure. Yeah.
And none of those were an emergency, but it was causing me to have a kind of a little bit of a panic attack, And so it's just helping people to learn how to do that. I also do travel, and what I'm discovering is that people, when they take a trip, it gives them amazing perspective on their life. They realize, oh, I really don't want to keep doing the job I'm doing. Or I miss this friend and somehow we've lost contact with each other. Or there's just something about being in a different space that allows you to see your own space in a different kind of way. And that has been really rewarding and fun to kind of add into this process.
So when people come to you one-on-one, how long are you usually working with them?
It depends on the level of work that they want to do.
Okay.
So it can be anywhere from 3 months to a year.
Okay.
And it just depends on because again, it's very much however much they're willing to share and kind of talk about things depends on how much they're willing to share and talk about things.
And so what I see, the results of this, it's almost like when you name it, I liked that point and call, you're
Mhm.
taking away the power from an external factor or something else and kind of shedding light on it. So then it
Mhm.
becomes less of a big
Yes,
deal.
that's
And
exactly
in a
right.
way, it's kind of helping you. I don't like this word control, but in a
Right.
way, it's kind of helping you control your day a little bit better instead of others controlling it for you.
Yes,
Is that fair to say?
that is fair. And I think also it's helping you control your own self in the midst of the day. We all, if you're a mom or a dad, you have caught yourself just yelling at your kids and later thinking, you know what, I wasn't even that mad. What was happening? And so it's learning yourself. Like even yesterday in the kitchen, I've learned to recognize, oh, my heart's pounding. Oh, what just happened in the last 5 minutes to cause that event to occur? But I think it's so important for people to realize that the life they have, there's so many parts of it that are exactly what they want and parts of their day that are exactly what they want. There's just other parts that are pulling at them too much.
Well, this has been really interesting because one thing I love about entrepreneurship is not only do you improve as a business owner, you also improve personally. And what you're doing is really helping people with that. What is the best way for people to learn more about your program and also plug into your Substack? And, where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yes. So my Substack is Meaningful Moments. It's shorter because it's so that you can find it on Substack or suzyconnector.com. That has links to everything. And you can learn about the mentoring, you can learn about the travel, you can learn about the Substack. It's all right there.
Perfect. And I'll make sure I put links so people can find it. Okay, a
Yeah.
couple things. We got to talk about travel because that is just your after my own heart here. Our family has invested in travel heavily. That's been something we've done
Mhm.
since our kids were little, so 30 years. And because of that, we're close, we've had really meaningful connections, we have fun together. And
Mhm.
that is part of your mentoring as well, is to really encourage travel. Where does that come from?
That comes from my love of travel. I have always, even as a little kid, if I was at a dinner party and I heard someone talking about a trip, I managed to move myself over there by them and I would ask 1,000 questions. Where did you stay? Why did you go? What did you see? All of the things. And then much of my adult life, I have traveled out of the country, within the country. I am someone who needs a trip to live my daily life well. I need it to look forward to. It makes my life better.
Oh my gosh, that's my oldest daughter. She's always planning our trips, which I appreciate. I half the
Mhm.
time I don't even know what to pack because I don't even know where we're going. And she says the same thing. I just need something to look forward to. Well,
Yes.
Suzy, this has been really enlightening. And I just love how you are giving us some real tools to kind of change our perspective, not only, with the person, place, and thing layers of our life, but really just paying attention to these meaningful moments. I think that's so critical to reduce the stress in our everyday lives, especially as we're out here hustling and building businesses.
Yes. Thank you. It's been a delight to be on, and that's my hope, is that hopefully everyone can even just take one part of their life and go, "You know what? There is harmony. I hear it. I see it. I'm gonna enjoy it."
I love it. Okay, one last question, Marco.
Polo.
So, what matters most to you today?
I love it. What matters most to me today is doing the things that are in front of me and doing them well, having a good attitude. There's some doctor's appointments and just some very normal, ordinary life things that could feel sort of mundane. But you know what? I get to be with certain people and enjoy them. And I'm going to make a point to recognize that in the moment and be with them.
I love that. Okay, for me, Polo, today is podcast day. So I get to record a few podcasts in one
Mhm.
day. And I intentionally block out the whole day just for this. I don't put any other expectations on myself to get anything else done so that
Good.
I can just be in the moment with my guests because every single time I learn so much. My bucket is filled and I really enjoy having these conversations. So thank you for being one of the three today.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
As I wrap up this conversation with Suzy, I keep coming back to something I know so many business owners feel, but don't always say out loud. Building a business can feel incredibly isolating. You can be surrounded by people, taking care of clients, serving your family, have a very busy calendar, and still feel like you're carrying the weight of every decision alone. And that's exactly why these kind of conversations really matter. Because sometimes what we need most is not another strategy, not another podcast episode, but or a productivity hack. Sometimes we just need perspective. We need support. We need a place to say, this is what I'm carrying. This is what I'm focusing on. This is what I'm working on without judgment so that we don't have to feel like we have it all figured out. That is a huge part of why I created the Focused Growth Collective. It's a space for women entrepreneurs to come together virtually who want trusted guidance, want smart feedback, want a system to help them make stronger decisions, take away the pressure of having it all together. So if this episode spoke to you, if you're feeling stretched thin, stuck in your own head, or just craving a better way, I invite you to learn more about the Focused Growth Collective. And if you could please do me a favor, leave me a 5-star review on this episode. That would be incredibly appreciative because the more reviews we have, the more people get to hear this amazing content. So until next time, keep building, but remember, you're not meant to build this alone.